Good afternoon, all of our constituents watching Kauaʻi Channel 53. Today, recap on the council meeting of May 15th. We had a nice agenda. One of the most important things on today's agenda was the communication C2024-98. It was Council Member Addison Bullason requesting the presence of Yvette Amstroff, who is a public health lecturer at KCC. She did an amazing job with her 3 students of Waimea High School who came to give a public health informational briefing on Department of Education school lunches. And it was kind of mind blowing to see what is being served today as far as nutritional and how it's perceived by the kids and when we grew up eating school lunches and the difference. And there was a lot of talk about how we are using different nonprofit vegetable growing, like the nonprofits out there on the west side, just using fresh vegetables and greens that are grown here on the island and fresh meats and inserting that into the public school lunches, which is not, which a lot of our students are eating processed food. There was a lot of pictures in their presentation that demonstrated a lot of lunches that are processed, like chicken nuggets and processed burger that are frozen and not fresh ground beef that our local ranchers raise here. So it was kind of appalling. It got kind of emotional. Chair Raposo and Councilmember Cooley both shed some eye-dropping tears on stories that they believe our children should have a better lunch menu. So not pointing fingers at anybody. It's not the principals. It's not the school itself. It's our legislators at the state level. It's our governor. It's the allocation that we put towards school lunches. And how can we feed our children better quality, local grown foods from our local ranchers and farmers here on the island? I made the quote actually that if we take all the cattle that is raised in Hawaii and process it at our different slaughterhouses across the state, we don't have enough cattle to feed all of our children within the whole DOE statewide beef that they need for chili, spaghetti, beef stew, hamburger patties. It is a shame that we live in the greenest, temperature controlled, perfect growing for food and livestock, and yet we gotta purchase our food somewhere else. A comment was made that a lot of children don't drink the school milk, that a lot of children find the milk to be spoiled. Milk has a 14-day shelf life, but if you're shipping in milk from another state, from the United States, it's on the barge, give or take 7 days. So by the time it gets here, your shelf life is 7 days. If it sits in a school refrigerator and it's served 3 or 4 days later, you're talking you got 2 or 3 days. And I got a giggle here because we were gonna try and do a dairy on the island, and we got the dairy shut down. A dairy that would provide fresh milk for our students throughout the DOE, the private schools, all of the families. So please, you guys, if we talk about going green, we talk about becoming energy efficient, zero emissions by 2050, then what about going sustainable by 2050? What about the topic on the floor was what about learning how to be self-sufficient instead of reliance on shipping in our product from the United States? One of the other topics was C2024-100, which was the $2 million that we want to allocate for the emergency ordinance fund during the last flood. There was a lot of heavy rains. A lot of our constituents in the Wailu area, Kolo area, did not qualify for their home insurance. Some of these homes don't have flood insurance. They cannot qualify for flood insurance. It's so expensive. And a lot of the flooding went into the home. So we allocated some money so we could assist our people in that realm. C-2024-101. It was the Bluefin Pay CONAX payment gateway process that our finance department is adopting so we can make credit card payments and it's just a formality that we're going through. One of the other biggest topics that we had on the floor was a briefing called by Chair Raposo. Thank you, Chair, for bringing it on. It was a water department manager, chief engineer Joe Tate, and he's Michael Hinazumi, another engineer within Department of Water, to discuss the aging infrastructures of our water system. Department of Water has some pipes they were put in the late 1800s, early 1900s that still is part of our infrastructure, and um, we need to fix that. We need an infrastructure overhaul, and Water Department is autonomous, which means that they govern themselves and the funding they have is within the rates that they charge the customers from. They're not they're not part of our county budget, but they are an amenity that we need when we do developments, and they provide a product for our constituents, which is water. So we discussed that. One of the hottest topics was discussing, how do we do a water usage plan, because the last one was done in 2009, and how do we upgrade and what is important. And according to Joe Tate and Mike Hinazumi, it's water storage, water transmission. So water storage is your tank. Where is those tanks stored? Water transmission, how do they use the pipes to get the water to the people's houses? And the source. The source is where the water comes from. And we have a lot of activists that shut down many projects. No, nobody wants to tap the water source. But the last study that was done, according to engineer Department Head Joe Tate, that we cannot build enough homes to use up all the water that Kauai has. Kauai has a lot of water, and we need water. We need the source, we need the transmission, and we need the storage so we can put our local people in homes, and water is part of the infrastructure. There was a talk, I believe the conversation piece I brought up was when we use and charge our constituents the same price for 1,000 square foot home, and they need a 5/8 residential meter. 5/8 is the type of pipe that feeds into the meter. Usually, commercial meter is 1 inch. You have a 3/4 meter and you have a 5/8. So here's the scenario: a 5/8 meter for a 3 bedroom, 1,000 square foot home pays the same infrastructure costs, and it's called the FRC, and the meter cost for a 5,000 square foot home built on the hill of Kukui'ula, who has the same 5/8 water meter. And according to Mr. Joe Tate, they're trying to incorporate a faucet allocation to break that cost down, to hold the larger homes accountable for paying more because they have a larger home. And I'm appalled that a small 3 bedroom home for a local family is getting charged the same as a mansion home on the hill of Kukui'ula. I think we need to address that scenario. One of the last ones was the real property tax. It was introduced by Councilmember Kagawa on behalf of Finance. And what it states is if your spouse dies, then your living spouse alive qualifies for the homeowner inheritance tax class. So just because somebody died, that doesn't mean you lose your classification. There are some people that was very worried that their taxes might fall into the non-owner occupied category. The last one was bill number 2920, which myself and Councilmember Raposo introduced. It was a bill to relating to the beautification fees. Currently, as a vehicle registration owner, like all of you are, you pay a $5 fee when you go to register your vehicle as a residential. All the commercial vehicles, all the rent-a-car agencies, they were all paying zero. And over a lunch conversation I had with Jeremy Lee and Michelle Lizama and Managing Director Reko Matsuyama, we were talking, starting, brainstorming. That's what we do. We do those events outside of the Wednesday meetings. We meet with our different departments and we brainstorm on how we can either draw revenue, gain revenue, cut taxes for our local families. And some of the discussion came about on the floor, on the in the discussion table was how do we quantify charging our resident when they register the vehicle a $5 beautification fee, which goes towards taking care of all the derelict vehicles across Kauai. And then our commercial rental cars pay zero. So we introduced the bill, Chair Raposa and I crafted the bill to hold these rental cars and commercial vehicle rentals accountable for the same beautification fee as what the residential pay. And it was some talk on the council for raising it to $10, $20. We would like to do that, but ethically and morally we cannot. We got to hold them accountable to the same fee. So in wrapping up, we did go into executive session. I'm not allowed to share what was discussed, but for confidential reasons, we were back on the council floor. May 15th update. Watch Ho'ike channel 54. Thank you, Max, for always being there for us every Wednesday. Max is the guy who does the footage. You don't see his picture, but he got a nice mustache. Anyway, bless you guys. Ho'ike, thank you for all you do. Aloha.